And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Yes, wait a minute. That's not Brandon Rhymes. Like any good backup quarterback, I've come off the bench to help out Brandon. He's a little under the weather today. We're going to be telling you just the way we normally do, empowering you as consumers out there with lots of great information to make you more informed in the workplace and help you live a better life. Intelligent radio still today, even with me here. And we've got some intelligent folks in the studio today as well. Connor Keller's here from Insect IQ. Tell me, Connor, what's been going on, man?
Oh, it's good to be here as always. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Little cool out for me. I've thinned out since I moved down here. So
yeah, it's definitely not Florida weather. I can tell you that much. Freezing.
Absolutely. Ron Fuller's here from Mossy Oak Fence. Ron, what's going on, man?
James, man, it's great to have you behind the wheel.
Well, I need your help. Like any backup QB, I'm going to need the team to support me a little bit today.
All right, I'll get off the bench and warm it up.
There you go.
We'll talk about fencing for Christmas, and I want to talk about custom fencing in saltwater environments right along the coast.
So a lot of different materials have to be used, and you got to kind of think about where you're going to put that fence.
You bet. Yeah, we've got the answer.
All right, it's good news. And I've been visiting with Connor already today, and I got some great stuff. Connor, tell me, before we even get going, man, you said the weather, you're always dealing with bees, all this stuff. You've got something going on in St. Pete?
I do. Actually, all over the state of Florida. We're still buzzing with work, no pun intended. But we're still really busy even into December. You know, we're getting these mild or cold fronts that come through, and then it gets mild again. And I think it's been great. It's great to work in, and thank God we live in Florida in a beautiful place like this and have this weather. But as far as stinging insects are concerned, they're really year-round in Florida. You should be aware of that if you're working out in the environment, if you're a landscaper or even realtors. I mean, this is a real estate show. You're going out and looking at houses. You're prepping houses, you're showing houses. You should be concerned about that too, because we have stinging insects everywhere.
Now, stinging insects, I mean, you're dealing with the worst of the worst. As a kid, is this something you never worried, you never scared of wasps, bees, insects at all?
Well, I have a memory of I was probably about 6 or 7 years old in my backyard, and I saw a honeybee sitting on the ground. I picked it up, and of course it stung me. Went crying into my mom, and but no, I never thought I'd be the bug guy. I mean, I liked bugs. I grew up in Florida in the outdoors and hunting and fishing and Southeast Georgia too. And I've always loved the outdoors. So it's a natural transition. I've always loved math and science, but actually out of college, I was in the restaurant business. I worked for Longhorn Steakhouse, Shell Seafood, a bunch of different restaurants all over the state and actually all over the country doing store openings, and got married and started having a family. And I don't think the restaurant business is very conducive lifestyle for families.
I hear you. I got a little background in the restaurant too. I think I might rather move alligators around chase coyotes.
Sure. And that's stuff. Funny you brought that up. Another memory growing up in Florida as a kid, I was fishing on a golf course, and there was probably a 2 or 3 foot alligator in the lake, and I was chasing my rattle trap around, and I ended up hooking the alligator and reeling it up to the shore, and picked up a rotten pine log and was beating it over the head trying to get my $6 lure back from it. Luckily, I'm a little wiser now. The gator trappers, I've always heard that, a good gator trapper doesn't have all its fingers. So that tells me I don't want to get into that business.
Yeah, that field is for you. You handle that one for me.
I like my fingers.
Now, everything's dangerous. We talked about it, of course, gators and coyotes and that kind of thing. But tell me about the bees going on in St. Pete.
Well, we have a church that contacted us through allfloridabeeremoval.com, which is our statewide stinging insect removal website. Just one website, one call, and we can help you anywhere in the state of Florida. And a couple other companies that already tried to tackle this problem. It's a huge honeybee colony that's in the roof of this 100-year-old church in downtown.
And this is still an active church, still having mass and whatnot going on every Sunday.
Weddings, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so it's a Lutheran church in downtown St. Pete. Actually, it's the Trinity Lutheran Church in downtown St. Pete. They actually gave me permission to talk about them, talk to the media. We're really taking care of them. They have a big problem. It's been there for years. I estimate, we used a thermal camera, and I estimate anywhere from 1 to 200 pounds of honeycomb sitting in the roof of this church right now.
So tell me, in your experience, that's enormous, or that's...
It's huge, yes. So it's been there, and they've known about it for a long time, and other companies have tried to go in and remove them or exterminate them. Yes, and the number one rule for honeybee removal is to find the nest and remove it, and all of their companies have failed. And actually, originally, when we went out to scope it out, we were going to try to get it from the inside of the church. It's always easier to go through the ceiling than it is to go through a roof. You can imagine what's involved in opening up a roof and being in Florida with weather and things like that. But it turns out we would need scaffolding to do it, and there was a choir pit underneath this beautiful building, old wood, just something out of Victorian times.
Before we get too far, with respect to that, it's a historic building.
Yes.
Aren't there factors that you can't adjust? People are worried about losing the historic appeal of the building, and there's law regarding that, right?
Sure, I'm not familiar with it. I'm letting the church, the officials at the church, I've met with the church council and the office manager there, and we're going to need a lift to remove the bees. It's a tall structure. Basically, we're going to use an 85-foot lift and going to have to block some of the sidewalk walk off to access the portion of the church to remove the honeybees. So I will contact the city of St. Petersburg and make sure there's no issues and blocking off a public sidewalk, but it shouldn't be more than a couple hours from start to finish.
Man, what a project. I can't believe that's how you do it, right? So on a not a scaffold, but like a bucket.
Yeah, the scaffolding was going to be a nightmare, and we got it all scoped out. It was very expensive. There were, a tiered choir pit that they were going to have to erect the scaffolding over, and we're going to be working 25, 30 feet in the air. Then you talk about cutting the ceiling, the mess that makes, all that honeycomb dripping down, so you have to clean everything up. And then you have to repair the ceiling too, all before a wedding or a Sunday service. So it was a big disruption to the church.
And because they've been there for so long, aren't the bees going to try to come back again as soon as you get them out of there?
Yes, and that's where Insect IQ and our professional expert service comes in, and doing it right the first time. And actually, like I said, we had scoped it out wrong. I went out and looked at it, and I like to do things simple, stupid. I think that with that concept in life, things always go well. And it's kind of a fresh set of eyes. And I said, with this, I know exactly where the nest is, and it would be a lot easier to use a lift, cut the roof, pull the nest out, and repair it. I got a roofer involved that's you've worked with us before and is used to working on these historic structures. So essentially, we'll take the barrel tile off. Of course, remove the honeybees first, but take the barrel tile off, cut through the sheathing, pull all that nesting material that's there between the joists, clean and sanitize everything. And then the most important step that we do is actually neutralize the pheromones so those bees don't come back.
I see.
You asked me before. That was a great question. That smell or odor from that nesting material is such a strong attraction for other colonies.
Yeah.
If that's not done correctly, you have repeated problems over and over.
So just like when you're assessing a structure for penetration, how did it get started? How did they get in? Why did they come? I always liked your approach in terms of giving you a little more knowledge about how the situation got to where it is.
A lot of times you can prevent other problems if you look at a structure as a whole and figure out how it happened, what you need to do to resolve it, and then, of course, what needs to be done to prevent it. And that's true in my business. I'm sure that's true in the fencing business and, across the board. That's just good customer service.
If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Connor Keller from Insect IQ. And one of the things I love about Connor is holistic approach. He's not just going to come in and try to kill a bug when he sees it. He's going to find out why it's there, how it got there, why it's there, and what we can do to make sure it doesn't return.
Yeah, that concept is called integrated pest management. And it was actually developed in agriculture to protect our food crops from pests without needlessly exposing us to pesticides. We've learned or taken those same lessons learned and applied it to urban pest management. And it's really looking at avenues, sources, and conditions in and around the structure and addressing those so you don't have to constantly go in and spray pesticides to control pests.
And give you some knowledge going forward so that you don't put yourself in that position again.
Yeah, I'm constantly learning. As a matter of fact, I always look for opportunities in everything I do. And out in diagnosing this problem and resolving it for this church, I discovered they had a huge pigeon problem. And in addition to that, they also have a huge rat problem. So, of course, we were able to step up, and they've contracted us, and we've already massively resolved the rodent issue.
Right.
Another company was working on that. I mean, that's the problem, is they had one company for this, one company for that. None of the companies were communicating with each other. We were able to come in, consolidate everything professionally, and quickly resolve all of their issues in a humane and convenient manner. And moving forward, they will have pest-free environment to conduct their
And
services.
just like we talk about all the time on this show, giving them that knowledge gives them some power
Right.
going forward to say, hey, this is how we got in the situation. These are factors that influenced how we got here. That's awesome.
The best thing about all of this is it's right in time for Christmas.
That's right. Church
It's a
is
great
going to
Christmas
need.
present. So
They're going to need that church space. Hey, I got to ask you about the coyotes. I know it seems crazy that we talk about coyotes living amongst us here in the Bay Area. I've seen them. I mentioned to you a lot of times when we visit.
they were on the news a couple weeks ago.
Is that
I don't
right?
know if you saw that. In
I saw them
Miranda.
by the Skyway. I told you I was driving one night. I see a dog. I'm like, this poor dog out here by itself. There's a twin. I realize there's 4 of them. Wait a minute. That's a pack of coyotes. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, I see it actually personally all the time in my house. I live in Brandon over on the East Hillsborough County side, but I hear about them. We've actually done some coyote trapping for the city of Tampa and downtown and Curtis
They're
Hickson
pretty
Park.
smart as well. They've managed to survive in the urban environment and kind of move around. And like I said, I've seen them as far as the Skyway. I've seen them up by the Courtney Campbell. So they're getting around.
Yeah, they will move around, and there's really not a natural predator for them. We historically have had things like wolves in Florida that have taken care of that, red wolves, gray wolves, and they're on the endangered species of even existing at all. I know we have a red wolf in Florida. I see them at the Lowry Park Zoo. They're pretty cool. They've just had babies, but those predators kept that in check, and so that's been removed, and the balance in nature is not there, and so the coyotes have come in and thrived.
And what are the fears? Well, I mean, what can coyotes really do in terms of damage?
So there was a news story a couple weeks ago I saw where a lady was walking her dog and got attacked. It was like 6:30 in the morning in Tampa somewhere. I think it was out in Odessa, and she was walking her dog. It was a grandma. Coyotes attacked the dog, and she tried to
gosh.
save the dog, and the coyote actually took her finger off. So
Wow.
attacked her. Yeah.
So you never know what's out there. We know in Florida, you better be ready.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, like I said, bees, coyotes, wildlife. We're doing a lot of raccoon and bat trapping right now. The weather brings all that stuff inside.
So it's Connor Keller, Insect IQ. You can tell he's dealing with everything out there. So if you have any questions, give us a call. We'll be right back after a little while with the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Hey, this is Jarek Robbins. You are listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Please do what it takes to learn all that you have to live the life you want to live it fully, and find a way to give it by paying it forward to others.
Get in touch with Brandon online at consumerqb.com.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
All right, welcome back. It's the Consumer Quarterback Show. Brandon is out today. I'm your backup quarterback, James DeJerome, producer here on the show. I've got Connor Keller from Insect IQ and Ron Fuller from Mossy Oak Fence in the studio with us today. I was going to ask Ron a little bit. We've talked about getting all the critters out of your house. What about a fence for keeping them out, Ron?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a pretty easy way to do it and very effective. But I wanted to tie in your restaurant and the insects. So I just tried for the first time cricket protein. It wasn't too bad.
What do you mean you tried cricket? Where'd you come by this?
Health food store that I frequent.
And it was a powder? It was an actual
It's a powder.
Crickets?
Yeah, it's a powder. And they actually make bars with it as well.
And your review for us.
Very good.
Delicious.
Kind of had a whey protein vibe to it.
Okay. So we mixed it with what?
I had the chocolate. But,
delicious.
Yeah.
Chocolate crickets.
I have a question. Did it put a little spring in your step? Sorry.
I know it, man. I got to tell you, I didn't get any legs or wings in it. It was actually very good. If you think about the cleanliness of the insect, you know, all they do is eat grass.
No, it sounds like a winner, but I'll wait a little while.
I'll bring you one.
Okay.
I'll trade you for a protein donut.
What now? They would? Could they eat your cedar fencing? Absolutely not.
You know, one of the great things about cedar has a natural characteristic that insects don't like. There's oils. It's that smell, that really great smell that you get with cedar, and so it has God-given, built-in natural defenses. You know, when Grandma wanted to keep her 100-year-old wedding dress in a hope chest, they were always made out of cedar. And nicer homes will have cedar-lined closets because of moss.
Yeah, I know in Florida real estate, it's a prized thing when they walk in an old house and they see cedar around. They're always like pointing out the beams and making sure it's a selling point.
Oh, absolutely. So cedar is a superb product, and in our wood fences, that's all that we use. In fact, we build the gates out of cedar, and one of the really, really inherent advantages of cedar on your wood gate is it's lightweight. It's a third of the weight. So the wear and tear on your hinges, the sagging that you get, nobody likes the sagging. We all get old, we sag. Well, our fences do as well. And you don't get that with the cedar gate. It's a phenomenal product for gates.
Now, just like when Conrad walks up on a job and kind of assesses it, you've got to decide to the homeowner what's the best looking thing, but what fits and what aesthetically is going to work, and then what materials are best for the job.
Yeah, we kind of specialize in high-end fencing, and we've got areas such as Winter Park and Maitland, and we do a lot of custom work in the coast, New Smyrna. And so we can actually customize a fence for the home. We train our staff to actually look at the vibe of the home. Now, in some cases, your HOA determines what you're going to get, and that's it. But we can get really creative with these estate homes or some of these older homes that have beautiful. There's one that comes to mind. The guy had a lot of stonework and had cedar, and the wood fence was just the right thing for him. Sometimes it's a combination of a black aluminum and a wood. Sometimes there's places where a white picket fence is the ticket. But in that case, we can go PVC and eliminate all the maintenance. Yes.
So Florida, we get a marine environment. Sometimes we've got salt. Sometimes you're inland and still have a lot of moisture in the air. Where you're near the sun is a killer down here, just like it eats up shingles and everything else. So you've got to kind of assess the natural environment and figure out what fits.
Absolutely. So in the case of a wood fence, the post is where you're going to get your failure. So we use galvanized steel and concrete with a cedar fence to eliminate that issue. But you mentioned sun. One of the things that you'll see with the aluminum fence is in the morning, what do you have on everything? You have the dew, right? So when that dew is getting hit with the sun, it's acting like a magnifying glass. And so that the top rail of your aluminum fence is getting just hammered every morning.
Right.
We use a really high quality product. It's a domestic aluminum with powder coating from Sherwin-Williams. And those are the types of things that can really make a difference in the longevity of your fence. In the saltwater environment, it's all about using stainless steel. You can't get away with galvanized nails. You've got to use a specialized product. and that's what we do as well.
Now, we talked about keeping critters out of your house. You were telling me during the break here that you've seen an alligator climb a chain link fence.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a community we do a lot of work in, and almost every home is on a retention pond, and everybody has spotted an alligator or two. People with dogs, people with small children, and unfortunately even adults. There's stories of adults being literally killed by alligators, full-grown adults. So it's one of the great safety measures. Yes, they can climb a fence. There's no guarantee of safety in any case, but a fence is certainly going to slow them down. It's going to confuse them, and you're probably going to hear it.
Yeah. Now, Connor, if you were to show up for a nuisance alligator, do you have to identify the size of it? Is it legal to take any alligator out of a Florida water
they're still
body?
protected. You can't, under I believe state and federal law. And there was a lottery instituted a few years ago, and I believe they still do it every year, where you can apply for a lottery ticket and then hire a professional or go out and hunt alligators. But basically, there's a few trappers left in the state of Florida that work with the Fish and Wildlife folks, the commission, and so you call Fish and Wildlife for a nuisance alligator, and then they'll send a trapper out that'll trap and remove the alligator.
It can be any size and still be a nuisance, even if it's juvenile?
It has to be aggressive, basically, is the problem. And I think they usually wait till they're over a certain size, 3 or 4 feet, before
I was just thinking, in a lake where you have multiple alligators, he's the problem.
Well, the issue with alligators is people feed them, and once they're fed by a human, they lose their fear. They have a natural fear of humans, want nothing to do with you, actually, quickly move away from you. If you are in or around a body of water and there's an alligator paying attention to you or following you around the lake, that's a bad sign. I've seen it happen. I've actually been, not to take time from Ron, but I've been doing a termite treatment installation right on a lake, using an auger, and which he's probably done many times, installing fence posts, but I was installing bait stations, and there was a large wading bird on the other side of the pond, and it looked like a 15-foot alligator that day, but it was probably about a 7 or 8 foot alligator, came out of the water, grabbed the bird, and dragged it back into the water. And I was on the other side of the lake in about the same situation. Needless to say, the rest of the day I had one eye behind me. I was thinking how I could stop the alligator with that gas-powered auger. So we were going to do battle.
So when you're looking for an alligator, do you just look for you look for broken tracks or some kind of?
If you see a body of water in Florida, there's an alligator in it. That's a general rule. And if there's not, there could be at any time. They move from body of water to body of water. The best time to see alligators is at night. If you live on a lake or live near water, just go out with a flashlight and shine your beam. You see the red eyes, and you'll see them everywhere. But they're usually going to be where food and water and shelter is. Certain times of year they're reproducing, and that's a very dangerous time of year to be in and around water where they're present. There's all sorts of things.
That's when they go on land. I remember having a time of year
they
where
nest.
They just catch them walking down the middle of a street. And
that female alligator will vigorously defend her nest if you come near it.
Have you seen that YouTube video of the Polk County monster? It was really hitting the YouTube airwaves about a year ago. It was at a golf course. Somebody filmed it. This thing was absolutely, James, man, this thing was probably 18-footer.
Really?
It was monster.
Holy cow. So what's the age you think of something that size when an alligator gets to be that big?
It's been around for a long time, but and well fed. Because that's what happens. They usually I know, have you seen the videos down, not to change the subject, but down in the Everglades where the boa constrictors and the alligators are going at it, and the alligators bursting out of the boa constrictor. So there's really, that's the danger. Alligators are nothing. Right. Those boa constrictors spreading across the state like that are just destroying everything.
Wow.
Yeah, if I see one of those things,
it's dead.
So Ron, if I'm building a house on a body of water, and I'm going to have you build a fence, you better have a spotter out there.
Yeah, a real good fence for the edge of the water would be chain link, and close to the ground, heavy duty, a thicker, maybe even commercial grade, because it's really gonna wreak havoc on a gator trying to pass it. In fact, the picture that I have, the gator's climbing the chain link fence because he can't penetrate it.
And that's the most common approach, is they try to burrow under that thing.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
I gotcha.
But it's really important. If you have pets, if you have children, you really have to protect yourself from alligators. And the other thing that people don't consider is even protecting their pet from another dog. If you have a smaller or medium-sized dog, and there happens to be an alpha male pit bull walking around, or even, a German Shepherd, some of the bigger dogs, you could very well see a problem you don't want to see with your beloved pet.
I just learned from Connor. In fact, must have been a few trips ago when you were here with us, that feral cats, another issue that we have to deal with in Florida, will take domestic cats. They'll eat them.
Well, I've seen that's funny because rodents, come to think of it, you just remind me of a situation where we've done rodent trapping in big like apartment complexes and go back the next day and all that's left is like the head because they're cannibalistic. They will tear each other up. Cat's a living animal and they get in a desperate situation, they'll do desperate things. So I wouldn't put it beneath them.
I had no idea that could go on. We'll learn more about it as we come back. Join us in just a second. Consumer QB, consumerqb.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Forbes Riley, celebrity TV fitness host and creator of The Spin Gym. I'm here today with Brandon Rhymes, and you're listening to the Consumer Quarterback Show. Great ways to get happy, healthy, and wealthy.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Hi, my name is Joe Stalteri. I'm one of the owners of Complete Care Systems. At Complete Care Systems, we do carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, tile and grout sealing, wood floor and laminate floor deep cleaning, as well as stripping and waxing of linoleum and vinyl floors, and a whole lot more. We also run daily deals and special, which you can find at CompleteCareSystems.com, or simply call Trisha up at 727-364-5158, and she'll answer all your questions and give you over the phone free estimates. Or she'll send me out to your home or office to give you an on-site free estimate. At Complete Care Systems, we don't cut corners, we clean them.
You're listening to the Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Consumer QB Show. I'm not Brandon Rhymes. I'm your backup quarterback, James DeJerome. I put down the clipboard. I got my baseball hat off. Put me in the game, and I'm trying to help you out. I've got some intelligent folks joining me today on the radio. Connor Keller from Insect IQ and Ron Fuller's here from Mossy Oak Fence. And we've been talking all kinds of crazy stuff. We got alligators walking through neighborhoods, and we're pulling bees out of stuff. We've got fences that alligators can climb up. So stay tuned. You're going to find out some things today you may not know. And let's swing it over to Ron. Ron, tell me a little bit more about fences and how they deal with water bodies and whatnot.
Sure. So the key with a fence in the water area, first of all, is rot. So that post, whatever's contacting the ground, has got to be rot proof. not resistance. It really needs to be proof.
What about how swampy we are down here? How deep you go, and what's the proper technique for that thing?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the worst type, which is a wood post. There's number 1, 2, and 3 grade pine typically. If you're going to go wood post, and we do as well, to save money, you want to be number 1 grade. That's going to be a better tree, better pressure treatment, right. And you want to put it in concrete. Your level 2nd or 3rd level wood posts, they're just simply not going to hold up. The best way to do it is galvanized steel and concrete. We use the same post that a stop sign has. And you watch hurricanes come through, and that stop sign holds up generally. God help you if it doesn't, because it becomes a missile. Right. And so that's a critical thing to do. You've got to think about, and you're absolutely right, James. We're sandy soil, we're wet soil. Florida is basically a swamp. Right. And anything that's in the ground is really going to take a beating. Rotting, carpenter ants, termites, mold. Mold will help deteriorate wood. Sure. And that's really the best thing you can do if you're going to keep your home any length of time. Spend the money for quality.
Absolutely. Is there a certain formula where if your fence has to be 10 feet, it has to be a certain depth into the ground? Yes,
you asked that question. Typically, we want to go 3 or 4 feet in. We have something that's a real cool post. It's a 6x6 dado post. It's a decorative top. It's a real thick, heavy post. We put that bad boy 4 feet into the ground.
Have you ever run into a circumstance where you just didn't have the depth because of the condition of the ground or some other circumstance?
Yeah, funny you should bring that up. Babcock Ranch, which is the big North Fort Myers community, doing really well. One of the top selling communities in the state. They have what we call hard pan, and it's a very difficult dig. It's more of a coral situation. It's interesting you have Cape Coral. That is exactly the name for it because it's a cape of coral. And that can be very difficult to dig in.
So that lime rock, you got to get through that.
Absolutely.
Now, if you puncture that, do you have groundwater issues coming through there?
You could. I'd say it depends on what kind of water source you have under it or near it. You could certainly run into that issue. Cape Coral is a perfect example. Those homes, they really need to be raised. This is a completely different subject, but you had some homes built in the 70s. And then they realized, we got to raise them. Now they're in the 80s and 90s, and you have homes all different levels with their foundations, and the higher the better.
Right. I got you. Now, we were talking with Connor Keller from Insect IQ previously about some of the jobs he's come across. You were mentioning to me in the break that you had something.
Yeah, I want to take a moment and confirm some of the things Ron's saying in regards to going steel or metal over wood.
Materials.
Yeah, cubicle wood rot is an actual live fungus that attacks seasoned wood and breaks it down, and it's things we look for on wood-destroying organism inspection reports when we do termites. I look at fences, I look at the wood-to-earth contact next to the house. That's probably the easiest place to find termites. So anytime you can eliminate that cellulose material and go non-cellulose, steel, metal, anything, vinyl, anything like that, you're always going to be better off. And he mentioned maintenance, and when you have to replace your whole fence in 10 years because it's destroyed by termites, you should have probably gone with that metal or vinyl fence instead.
I'm always amazed rather at the amount of damage that you'd swear this particular material couldn't be hurt. We had previous pictures that you showed me of rats actually doing damage to metal piping.
Oh yeah, rats have to constantly gnaw on their teeth. And actually, I think some of the pictures I included in the slideshow show some of those lead boots on a roof.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, they're plumbing stacks, and that vents the toilets and sewer system. But squirrels gnaw on that. That's what I look for, evidence that you have squirrel activity in and around the home. And in this case, squirrels had gotten in. The lady's hearing them during the day running around. So I figured out the entrance they were using, and I actually installed a one-way door that they run out, effectively taking advantage of their behavior.
Right.
I've sealed everything else back up, and they can't get back in, and it resolved the issue without having to go through trapping and repeated visits. And that's really where a professional comes in. If you're building a fence or you have squirrels in your attic, your best bet is to seek a licensed contractor and use them every time.
Absolutely. Now, if you're just joining us on our television program on WeBeam TV, Connor's got some photos that he was showing. go through some of the steps. I think you showed some termite stuff. Is that what it was?
Yeah, definitely. This is a house in New Tampa that had subterranean termites, and the termites actually got into the frame around the garage door, and it's very expensive to replace. And luckily, it's not structural damage. They've caught it early, so we've gone in, we're drilling the garage slab, and then trenching and treating around the exterior perimeter of the structure, and then also drilling any abutting slabs, effectively giving a complete non-repellent barrier around the structure.
Now,
it's very effective.
What is the stat you mentioned before on the show about termites doing more damage than
fire, flood, and wind combined? That's not typically covered by your homeowner's insurance, unless you've purchased a specific rider to cover termites, which is almost unheard of. You check your policies, but they're not covered.
Yeah.
The state of Florida, back up and talk about termites. There's in the building code, they require a preventative termite treatment anytime you build a structure that involves pouring concrete or even an elevated slab. And so a general contractor or builder hires a licensed pest control company to come in and treat that soil or treat the wood itself to prevent termites. We attach a notice of treatment, and there's all sorts of paperwork that goes into closing the permits out. So it's a big deal, legal situation. They do that because you're just like you're saying, you're more likely to get termites in your house or in that wood fence you're considering. That's all relative, and there's steps you can take, to prevent that.
And it's not just a one-time thing. I mean, you think of it that way as a homeowner. I got termites. I'm gonna have to get a treatment done, but it's a recurring treatment that has to, because those things just keep coming back.
Well, so we recommend a treatment, preventative treatment, or curative treatment, depending on the situation, and then we do annual inspections. We offer a warranty with the treatment that you can renew every year. We have both a retreatment warranty that's more affordable, where we just cover new activity, or we have a full damage repair bond, which will cover up to $1 million. I think what really sets us apart from most companies is our contract, and we have one or two lines of exclusion. If a tree falls on your house and your roof opens up and you don't do anything about it and you get termites, well, that's not our fault. But other than that, once we treat the structure, you shouldn't get any live termites in it, and we take care of it.
And here in Florida, we've got all different kinds, right? We've got Formosan and another kind as well.
Right. We have drywood, subterranean, Formosan are a type of subterranean. But Ron, did you have a...
Yeah, one of the things that, because you have intelligent listeners, because you have intelligent folks you're listening to, right? Go. So Connor brought up the contract. You got to beware, a lot of termite treatment bonds say, we guarantee we'll retreat for termites, and it excludes the damage, the $4,000 or $80,000 worth of damage they did to your home.
Yeah, they're not worth the paper they're printed on, and that's where a good company comes in and really doing your background on the company. And just like if you hired a general contractor to fix your roof or anything, a fencing contractor, there's good companies and there's bad companies out there. And everybody I've met on this show has been good company, good people, and I think that goes around.
Well, that's what we try to do here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, is provide some knowledge out there for our listeners to make them empowered and get some better decisions and give them a little protection out there in the world, because like you said, it's a jungle in the consumer world. Hey, Ron, I had a question for you. Dealing with sports, my background is in athletics, coaching. Everyone erects these chain link fences, but they put the plastic coating and the windscreen on it. So it gives you some privacy, really sharp looking. Is there a residential application for that kind of fencing?
It's a great question. Typically residential, you're going to see that in tennis court enclosures or sport enclosures. Now, I am a big fan
nudist colonies.
Yeah, those two. Yeah, we have a fence. We do an 8-foot fence for folks that do that. But one thing I can't understand is they have a zip line tower that's 14 feet tall.
Well, so much for
interesting. Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of black chain link in residential. Visually, your eye actually goes past it. It's so attractive, and it's such a durable fence. I'm a big fan of the black chain link. The other thing is you can plant any type of shrub, the typical viburnum or the shrubs that grow quickly, into that black chain link and never see it. Critters can't get through it, but once that plant has taken over and gone around the black chain link, it becomes completely invisible.
Does that black chain link outlive a standard because of the coating?
Absolutely. So it's actually, James, it's a galvanized, it's the same galvanized chain link that you see in commercial applications with a black coating, the plastic coating, and it will outlast anything. The only thing that will take out a chain link fence that's properly installed is a hurricane where you've had a tree fall on it, or Grandpa had a few too many beers and backed into it.
Yeah, because they're sharp looking. I really think that's a good look for a home.
It is, and it's extremely durable. The other great advantage that's inherent with a chain link fence is it has the holes in it. So when you have a wind, one of the issues that fences run into, when you have an 80, 90 mile an hour wind hitting it just right, it's putting a lot of pressure on the post. It's probably going to fail. You simply don't have that issue with chain link because of the honeycomb design.
Right.
Hey man, honeycomb. And also, even with the wind socks and the wind breaks, they also allow airflow.
Gotcha. Thanks so much, Ron Fuller, Mossy Oak Fence. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show, hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes. Do not touch that dial. I'll come right through the radio and grab your throat.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
All right, welcome back. It's the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your backup quarterback, James DeJerome. And we got a couple of things that Brandon always does that we're going to continue on the show today, and that is the feel-good story. And I tell you, one of the best things on the show is this idea that we're out there finding news that's positive for you because it's everywhere. And it's a shame that it's unique to find. That's my problem with it. It's everywhere, and we've got a story today about these fires out in California. Terrible tragedy going on out there. These people have endured unbelievable hardship. We've got a story about a dog. This poor lady had to leave. The fires are coming. She has to evacuate, and her dog has to be left behind. So Andrea Gaylord is her name. Andrea returned to her home in Paradise, California. She was so surprised to see her beloved dog Madison had survived the fire and was waiting patiently for her return. She was not able to get to her home when the camp fire began to spread on November 8th, meaning Madison, her dog, was left behind. All she could do was pray for Madison's safety. Gaylord was able to connect with animal rescue volunteer Shayla Sullivan, who checked on the property and continued to leave food and water for the dog. A month later, when authorities lifted the evacuation order, Gaylord was allowed to return to her property, which had been decimated by the fire. But her prayers were answered, and Madison, the dog, was still sitting there waiting patiently for her family at the home where the home used to stand. She said, "Imagine the loyalty of hanging in the worst circumstances and being here waiting for us. I was so emotional. She told the TV station. What a great story. The dog looks like it's not even bothered by it looks fine.
Golden Retriever, best dog ever.
I tell you what, when you think about people losing their entire home, I mean, we're threatened annually down here as Floridians. We've got to consider there may be a hurricane coming towards us. We may lose all these possessions. Fire turns everything to ash. There's nothing left behind
Plus,
for these
James,
folks.
just the sheer violent brutalness of a hot fire.
My goodness.
You know, we
imagine.
can deal with wind and even the water, and it's still dangerous. But a fire, that isn't playing around. You just can't simply do anything but escape if you're lucky enough to.
The speed with which it moved and the damage with it. There are people going back, digging through ash and dirt, trying to find anything they can to even find out if this is where my house stood.
Right.
They can't even tell that it used to be here.
Yeah, one of the greatest causes of fire in Florida is actually rodents chewing on wires in attics and starting fires. So it's just another good point, as far as being on top of that and looking for those signs in and around your property, whether you're hearing stuff in your attic, smell something funny. Sometimes you just get flies. Something dies in your attic. You don't really suspect anything else, but you get these large blow or flesh flies in your house. So that's a good sign that you have a bigger problem going on.
So you got to be diligent looking for the clues.
Yeah, definitely. And just, you just be aware, if you're ignorant, then you're going to kind of get what you deserve, and you may have a house fire from something like that.
But that's what I mean with Connor, taking the holistic approach. You want to find out what the problem is, but you can see that thing coming down the road a little bit.
All about prevention.
Yeah.
What is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure when it comes to pests and things like termites and, that, and even purchasing a fence. I mean, not to go back to that, but it's so true. And I talk to homeowners about this all the time, and they ask me, should they get a wood fence or a metal or vinyl fence? And I tell them every time, non-cellulose. It's going to last a lot longer. You're not going to have the problems with insects and rot and disease. And I think you actually save money when you consider all those things long term.
So Ron, in the future of the fencing game, there may be hybrid products or materials coming out that kind of simulate wood and plastics and give us even more durability.
Yeah, absolutely. If you recall, years ago they came out with Tyvek and different products for wood decks, and that stuff's bulletproof. So think of the days when you're at the beach and you're walking on that boardwalk and you're getting these terrible slivers and splinters in your feet. Because that pine is just, the sun has taken its toll.
Right.
They've come out with a product that's simulated 2x4, and they build great decks and great walkways out of them. And so, yes, the products, I hope to see that.
Is it plastic? I don't mean to interject.
it is.
Sure, it's recycled poly. It's any type of poly products. It's dashboards and mattresses and anything that was made out of any kind of petroleum foam gets recycled, and it's bulletproof.
Man, I'm all for that. We've got these stories about the plastics in the ocean and these different things that are going on. We need to find a way to use that material, any way we can, or find something that can eat it, some way to get rid of it.
One of the interesting things that talked to Connor about is, I find it fascinating. I live in a historic town, Mount Dora.
Right.
There's homes that were built in the 1890s, buildings that were built in the 1880s, 1890s. They're standing up well. They've stood up well to termites. And yeah, you can have a new home built out of wood in Florida, and the termites just get right after it. I wonder if it's a forest issue.
I can answer that question. First of all, Mount Dora is one of my favorite cities in Florida. I mean, I grew up in Orlando, but I just like Mount Dora. It's just a really cool place to go visit and even go up on like a Saturday or something like that and spend the day, have dinner and shop. But, those houses, the wood's almost petrified in it, really. I don't know if you've tried to ever cut a beam in your house or do any remodel. I mean, you'll go through a couple blades trying to cut through that. It's all heart pine, and it's been there for 100 years, and a lot of.
So did it get hard via age? Is that what it is? Over time?
Well, the other thing is we're using a lot of slash pine now in building products, which it grows faster.
Yes.
We replant
Central America.
It's a different pine.
Okay.
So it's just that's heart pine, Georgia yellow pine, whatever you want to call it. So.
Yeah, Connor, James, the thing was when you're building a home, you were using local wood.
Right.
You weren't going to Home Depot with your F-150. So it was wood that was native to the area.
Gotcha. Cut and milled right there.
Exactly. And now Central and South America, they grow pine, and they use actually growth hormones. I mean, you can think of bodybuilders. It's the same way. I mean, you can use hormones in plants, and what you get is a grossly fast-growing tree that's super soft.
And on a side note, that just made me think of something. That spring wood, that fast, soft wood, is what termites go after. So when you get subterranean termite damage in a piece of wood, it seems like they just eat with the grain of wood. And it's actually, it's the same concept of counting the rings in a stump to see how old the tree is. It grows real fast in the spring and summer, and then hardly grows at all in the winter. And that's why you get those different colors. But it's that spring soft wood that they just destroy.
I had a buddy doing some work for me, and he said, "Oh, the treated pine, termites love that." I said, "What is it treated? It's treated, right?" He said, "Yeah, it's like dessert."
The EPA outlawed arsenic, and so the reason you'll see a 16-year-old pine fence that's holding up is because it was domestic southern yellow pine with arsenic. Today, the EPA outlawed it, which is good for our water, better for our environment. But this soft wood that comes from Central America is awful. It's pallet grade.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they're also treating it now with boric acids, and it's when you said that arsenic's gone, that pressure treatment is with a boric acid or boron type mineral, and we use that same product, new construction, to treat preventatively for subterranean.
That explains why I used to work in television in Gainesville area, and we had the New Yankee Workshop. The gentleman do this carpentry, and they were having divers go in all these cold water springs looking for cedar that had been sunk on the bottom.
Cedar and cypress too. Yeah. That's the other.
So these logs were very valuable. After 50 years under submerged, they came out, like you said, hard or petrified. So it came construction material. They all were, dying for this stuff.
Yeah, they make beams and stuff out of that, but that stuff's priceless.
No kidding. So it's something to do with the time, or the water?
I think it's that natural preservation of the water.
So it's cool, and there's nothing gets to it down there. Oh, man, that's something.
And there's just not a lot of that being cut and milled these days.
Understood. Now, what else is going on in terms of, we talked about coyotes and bees and insects. You said you had another project going on?
Yeah, so I have an account over in Feather Sound right off of the interstate when you get over the bridge in the St. Pete. And it's a big commercial banking operation, and they have a problem with feral cats. And a year or two ago, we did a bunch of feral cat trapping on their loading docks. I'm not sure if people have just released cats there and it's just grown into this huge colony, but the cats have become a nuisance. They're getting, they're using the bathroom everywhere and getting into things, and this is probably where it may be a good lead for you for fencing. Keep them out, but I don't know if much will keep cats out. They're climbers, and so what we do is we go in and evaluate the situation, and we're trapping the cats. They're feral cats, so we take them to a local society here in Tampa. We get them spayed or neutered, they clip their ears, and then we have several cat rescues that have feral colonies on large pieces of property that we go release the cats in. So it's a win-win situation for everybody.
In terms of animal removal, where they stack up? How difficult compared to some of the other things you deal with? Possums, raccoons, you do all that stuff.
Yeah, it just depends if they've been trapped or not. Cats are super smart, and most of your feral cats have probably someone's tried to trap them at one point or the other, so that's what you run into.
So typically it's a baited cage of some kind?
It is. It's a live trap, the same trap we use for raccoons. You have to get creative sometimes. You have to cover them up and kind of camouflage them, and then sheets work well, or put them in the bushes. Where the cats are harboring, and then use attractive bait, cat food, just wet cat food works really well. Tuna fish. Sometimes you'll get a lot of non-target animals, raccoons and possums in the process. So depending on the account and what they want, we may remove those as well.
Now, raccoons and possums, are they considered nuisance animals? Or they just happen to be?
Well, anything that that interacts with humans in and around their structure and becomes a nuisance is in fact a nuisance animal.
Even if I was thinking of the natural. The feral cat seems to me like man put it out there somehow, and that created the problem. Raccoons and possums are out there anyway.
I see them all the time, and they're not a problem until they bother you. If they're getting your garbage can, or they rip in to your siding of your house and start nesting in your attic, it becomes a problem.
That might be good for you, Ron. When wintertime comes, all the critters start to they want to get in your house where it's warm. You got to put a fence around that thing.
Right. Yeah, honestly, the fence is a great deterrent for bigger critters, but the climbers are going to get in.
All right.
You absolutely are right, though, with the cold weather. The mammals especially want to find a warm
Seek
place.
Shelter. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks again, guys. It's been great giving some knowledge out to people, and thanks for joining us here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Check us out online at consumerqb.com, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for the Consumer Quarterback Show, weekday afternoons at 5 on AM 1380. The Biz.
Are you a real estate agent looking to take your business to the next level and supercharge your marketing? Hi, I'm Brandon Rhymes, owner of Platinum MVP Realty and host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, syndicated radio and TV show talk program on iHeartRadio, 1025 The Bone, daily 5 o'clock drive time on 1380 The Biz, and our TV show is on WeBeam TV. We're looking for real estate agents that want to join our team and supercharge their marketing utilizing some of our innovative strategies. We utilize the Real Geeks platform, Facebook marketing, internet marketing, and a lot of the traditional methods as well. Postcard mailers mailed for you, postage, signage, business cards, all paid for by the company. Aggressive real estate splits and ways to help you win in any marketplace. We need you to go out, take applications, and work our plethora of leads that we're generating on a daily basis. Reach out by clicking the form below, and we'd love to have a confidential interview with you.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.